Here's what I know. Sales is not the place to get our emotional needs met, because sales can be highs, it can be lows, and that sort of thing. And if we let a bad sales call, knock us a few steps back, it can be a painful ride, right? So I would say to that.
Well, thanks for watching this episode of the podcast. This is our first real and guest here, Eric Fry. We're super excited to have Eric here. I've known Eric for a number of years, and I'll let Eric tell you a bit more about himself, and then we'll jump into some questions and conversation. Go ahead, Eric.
Terrific. Yeah, thanks, Nick. And by the way, I really appreciate I didn't know I was your first, so that's awesome. It's quite an honor. And yeah, Nick, you and I have known each other for a number of years, and you've helped me out quite a bit as well along the way. If you recall that judging panel that I had at one point. But yeah, so my name is Eric Fry. I own a company called Sandler Training Maritimes, and we are kind of the world's largest sales and leadership training and coaching organization. And we work with all kinds of businesses, really small, even solopreneurs, all the way to international sales and leadership teams. And I find in every case they're really good and passionate about what they do, but they struggle where they're frustrated that they don't have a system for selling, or they don't have a system for leading their teams, or they're concerned that they're giving away too much consulting for free, and they're not getting treated the way that they want to be treated, more as an advisor instead of just being a vendor. And so it's a really gratifying thing that we do here at Sandler. So I look forward to our conversations, Nick, for sure.
That's awesome, Eric. Perfect. Is this your first time on a podcast? Have you had any experiences like this before? You mentioned and we mentioned you're our first guest. So again, super excited about that. But is this the first time you've been on something like this, or?
First time on a podcast. Lots of speaking engagements, panel discussions, and even live TV interviews, which. Well, that's an experience, that's for sure. But
I recall seeing those.
Yeah,
nice. Even some radio bits too. I remember one time.
That's
right. C100 or something, a local station here that we jumped on and did a little ad for. So that was cool too.
That's right.
We reached out to you and asked you to be on, and we're honored for that. What made you interested in hopping on the podcast today?
Oh, well, listen, I mean, I'm sure like you, our time is precious, but, for folks like you, Nick, happy to offer whatever I can, that if it's going to help you move your agenda forward and help grow your business. But I just love speaking with people and with good people that where we've got aligned approaches and visions. So this will be fun. I'm looking forward to it.
Awesome, Eric. Well, we appreciate the support. Thanks for that. Do you listen to podcasts?
Yeah. I listen to quite a few podcasts. My favorite, I would say, is How I Built This by Guy Raz. And I find that really motivating because it's significant business leaders and how they started, where they came from and what they did and those pivotal moments along the way that really changed their course forever. And so, I get really pumped up when I'm in the truck and I listen to stuff like that.
Awesome. Are there any that come to out? Are there any episodes that come to mind, or any recent ones you might have listened to, a cool story that you recall from that podcast in particular?
Well, one that I listened to, I remember sort of a little while ago, was the owner of Lululemon and how he started. And multiple failures along the way, and started really small. I think he was manufacturing beach shorts at the time, and then decided to go to a yoga class, and he showed up in his beach shorts and thought, this is really uncomfortable. It's got to be a better way, right? So it's just those little things along the line of all of our businesses where we recognize an opportunity and we know we need to adapt and do it quickly, which is what we've tried to do in our company as well.
That's some great insight there, Eric. And I know you and Nick have pretty similar mindsets as you're kind of getting at beforehand there. And one thing that I know Nick really likes, and kind of me and his collaborative mentor too, is reading. That guy does not stop reading. I know Nick is like, how many books you got, Nick?
I don't know, hundreds.
Too many books.
Yeah.
But one question I wanted to ask you is, I know Nick likes to read, and I know that you guys are similar. Do you like to read? Is there any books that you read in particular, or anything that you'd recommend?
So yeah, a couple of years ago, I joined Audible and always on in the truck. And so I think last year, I wouldn't call myself a voracious leader, but probably went through about 10 books last year. And Never Split the Difference was a great one. I loved that one. I don't know if you've heard of it or listened to it or read it.
I have. Is that Chris Voss? Is that the
Chris Voss? Yeah,
right.
yeah. I found there was a bunch of parallels to some of the concepts that we teach, which was kind of cool. So so that was good. Just read Will's autobiography.
All right.
Narrating himself. That was pretty powerful for sure.
Cool.
What else? Reading Tiger right now, his
Okay.
autobiography. So that's kind of cool. And you know, a number of other, probably a little less heavy, although one was Total Meditation by Deepak Chopra.
Nice.
I belong to an entrepreneurs group, and we're fortunate enough to see and hear a number of speakers, and he was one of them.
Oh, wow.
And I purchased his book after that. So yeah.
Awesome.
That's good. I've been trying to do a little bit more reading. Actually, one of my goals this year was to read a book a month. So I'm on a good pace so far. I've got one finished so far for January. So we're starting. I'm reading I think it's the 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership right now too. So that one's going into my second month. But if I read a little bit more than 12 in a year, I don't think that's a bad thing either. Nick gives gifts away all the time. He gives books to his clients. Is that something that you do?
We do, yeah. You know what? That's a really good point, Nathan, and probably something that we should do more of. You know, we have access, I mean, just speaking for Sandler, to all kinds of Sandler books, and they're coming out. You know, I mean, I could write a Sandler book. We've got that ability. So all of the independent Sandler owners have written a number of books on a number of different topics. I should probably be purchasing more of those and giving those away. But one of the ones that we tend to give away the most is just Success Principles for Leaders. It's fairly straightforward, fairly basic, fundamental stuff that probably not a lot of rocket science, but you know, some interesting things that if we committed to doing would definitely make a difference in our leadership abilities.
Nice. Yeah, thank you for that. I know I've been watching a lot of Sandler training videos on YouTube right now, and I never knew that there was content, I guess, literature as well, but the YouTube videos have been really helping me kind of. One thing that I really liked was the Upfront Contract. That was just one cool thing that I picked from it. But yeah, there's so much content that you guys have on YouTube. It's for anyone that's trying to get into selling or just kind of wanted to touch up on their sales experience. It's definitely a good watch. So I'd recommend that to anyone.
Yeah, there's a book that Nick would be familiar with, the Sandler Rules. I think there's what, Nick, 49 of them, something like that.
I think I have it right over my shoulder here, actually.
And you make a good point, Nathan, that you know, jump on YouTube because they're all there in, you know, 1, 2, 3 minute little quick videos about the Sandler Rule and how it applies to sales and life for that matter. So good ad.
Yeah,
Absolutely. Eric, I recall you sharing a couple of CDs with me too back in the day, and not to plug Sandler too much, but it's been very impactful in my sales process and career, and I literally think I burned a hole through them. I listened to them so much, and it was weird and at sometimes boring to like roll down the road and have these Sandler tapes on, but I could probably I could say them probably verbatim, most of them. So it's really interesting, but it's helped, and it's interesting how that repetition, you know, just allowed that to sink into my subconscious mind. And now when I'm speaking with anyone or potential clients or current clients, it just kind of rolls off your tongue and you're like, oh, right. Yeah, I know where I got that from. And it's great. It's been very helpful. So those resources were awesome for sure.
Oh, that's great. I mean, you were always great to work with, Nick, because you really immersed yourself and you just, I always say to anybody coming into our programs, you're going to get out of this whatever you want to put into it. And you always put a lot into it. So good for you.
For sure. Yeah. Thanks, Eric. Yeah. To touch base, dig in a little bit more on you, a unique question we wanted to ask was, what makes you unique that others might not know about you, Eric?
What makes me unique? Wow. Well, I would say, I came from a corporate background. I worked at places like Xerox and Staples and, leadership positions and that sort of thing. And I would tend to get a bit frustrated. I love disruption. I love just, disrupting any industry that we're in, which what we're trying to do in our industry. And we'll talk about that, I'm sure, as we go on here. But disruption and, just can't live with the status quo. Always looking to make the experience better. So yeah, that's probably one thing. Plus I love to stand up paddleboard. It's one of my favorite things.
Nice. There it is. Awesome. Cool.
Well, you've been doing sales for how long now, Eric?
Oh man, you're not gonna ask me that question, are you, Nathan? God, I would say, 30 years. 30
years. What made you get started? Was there like certain person that kind of led you that way, or was it just your personality?
Well, I went to school to be an optometrist of all things. I thought, that'd be cool. Hated it. So got out of that and took some business course, and I said, okay, I'm digging that for sure. Nice. So I ended up getting, a business degree and that sort of thing. And all my jobs were very people-oriented jobs. My summer jobs were selling harbor cruises in Halifax, on the Harbor Queen and the Martu and that sort of thing, or selling tickets to a dinner theater or that sort of thing. So I think I probably just kind of migrated that way naturally. Just love dealing with people, and I saw sales as that itch that I could scratch as far as controlling my own destiny rather than just being kind of slotted into a role. This gave me the flexibility that I was really looking for. I don't know if that made sense, Nathan.
No, it does. And I've been doing sales for just over 5 years now. And I think it's a really rewarding, field to be in. And it's one skill that if anyone should learn it, it's really important. I find that business people, just being able to talk and interact with other people, it makes a big difference. And a lot of successful business owners start off as salespeople.
Huge proponent of it. I think. I think you've all heard the adage, everybody's in sales. It's kind of true.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's interesting. You touched on it a little bit, Eric, but you at one point in your career were working for other organizations and then made the jump for whatever reason into owning your own firm and agency. So what made you want to do that?
Well, as I said, I kind of grew up in that corporate world and just there were so many rules, there were so many limitations and led to a lot of frustration. And I know that when I was at Xerox and Staples, obviously, did well and that sort of thing, but I would have to get either promoted or moved around every couple of years because I'm sure I was driving my bosses crazy because I was always trying to do things differently, always trying to challenge the current, the status quo. And so I guess it led to a restructuring when the company that I was working for got purchased by Staples. And, I had to transition out over a year and change everything. And then I said, you know what, I'm going to do stuff on my own. I think I built up a skill set that could probably warrant owning my own business. So I think that was the catalyst that moved me in that direction.
Do you think many salespeople follow that same path, Eric? Because I, in different with different companies, that trajectory was similar for myself. So it's like you kind of get to a point where you're like, yeah, I think I can do this. So, is that a typical path for salespeople, or no? Are we a weird breed that decides to make that happen and jump off and do our own thing?
It's funny, Nick. I think you just need the guts to do it, and
Right.
the guts and the courage. And one of my other passions is real estate. We're doing some pretty neat stuff there.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll tell you, if I could count the number of people that I talk to on a weekly basis that say, "Oh yeah, I want to get into real estate. I want to do this, or I want to do that," but they'll never do it,
Right.
right? Because they don't have the conviction and the discipline to do it. So I think salespeople. I think sales is one of the most critical skill sets that you can develop. I mean, we train a lot, as you know, Nick, a lot of non-selling professionals,
Right.
like accountants and engineers and lawyers. They're not salespeople, but yet they still need to develop that confidence and have a system in place where they can sell ideas. And I think that's why it's such a prevalent and critical skill set that people need. If they recognize that, then yeah, those are the ones that will want to start their own business or do their own thing because they'll have the confidence to do so.
You got it. Yeah, that's true. Interesting. Daily we get up, and Nathan and I to sort of chase our goals and dreams and aspirations, and often we'll write those down or review them at the end of the year, beginning of the year, and kind of set out a mission. I would guess that you probably have a mission or goals for yourself, and if you do, how do you go about attacking those? Like what is your process for reviewing goals?
Yeah, that's a great question. Most people aren't big goal setters, believe it or not. They say they are, but they don't have a way to do it. And not to plug Sandler here, we take it very seriously, and we'll go as far as creating these vision boards, with goals tied to the vision boards. And so yeah, I have lots of goals for sure. I'm highly goal oriented, so that's how I tackle them. I've got personal goals, I've got professional goals, and under each of those goals is a plan to get there. That's specific and measurable and attainable and time bound and realistic.
Right.
So a detailed plan to achieve everything that I have on my plate for the year. So
sure.
Probably a long answer, but yeah, take it very seriously.
No, that's awesome. And as someone with a family like yourself, do you ever get your family involved in any of that planning, or do they have a rough idea of kind of what you're trying to obtain to ensure that they're helping you, when you go home and take your sport coat off for the day, or is it just all in your own head that you're shooting for your goals?
It's probably something I need to do a little bit more of, but as an example, I've got relationship goals. So, we've been married for 26 years now. And,
congrats.
Yeah. So we make sure that we have a date night once a month, right? Otherwise, things can start to slide a little bit. And so my buddies, I want to get together with them once a month at least, and the kids and that sort of thing. So these are goals, but without kind of thinking about them and defining them,
right?
We'll find ourselves at the end of the year saying, "What have I accomplished? Not nearly as much as what I was hoping."
Yeah, that's great to say. I've been trying to develop a better goal setting plan, I guess, myself too, because Nick's very fond of it. And a lot of the people that I've been recently talking to, like my mentor, for example, he's been really fond of goal setting as well. And it's not something that I used to do. So it's something that I'm trying to do. And actually one of them is trying to wrap my mindset around of, as a salesperson, I'm trying to get my head around the fact that I'm not bothering people when I'm reaching out to them. And one thing that Nick always tells me is that I'm a business person in sales. So is that what you see yourself as, or do you see yourself as a salesman? I know I can kind of crush people's confidence when you're calling people or you're just getting rejected all the time, but Nick's been telling me, and I got to learn for myself too, that I am a business person in sales, and this is just how we have to interact with other people.
Great question. And, love that, Nick, business person in sales, for sure. And I think if we think of ourselves as sales reps, we're going to be treated like a sales rep, right? So here's what I know: sales is not the place to get our emotional needs met, because sales can be highs, it can be lows, and that sort of thing. And if we let a bad sales call knock us a few steps back, it can be a painful ride, right? So I would say to that, Nathan, that oftentimes people confuse the value that they bring with something that they might have screwed up in a sales call, and it'll hurt their what we call their identity.
Right.
We need to stay true to ourselves, and be that equal business stature with whoever that we're speaking with. If it's the CEO of the organization, or if it's the if it's an end user of your product or service. So I would say that sales, as I said, not the place to get our emotional needs met. We don't want to get derailed just from a bad sales call. So it's water off a duck's back. You gotta thicken the skin, toughen up.
Gotcha. That's a good advice for sure. Did it take you a long time to figure that out, or were you just straight off the bat?
You know what it did, and some people are more naturally people pleasers, right? Whereas others are just kind of bull in a china shop. And I think that's what I had to figure out, is where I kind of sat on that communication matrix. And so I'm a driver by nature, so I probably had to pull back a little bit. But it's different for everybody. But I'm a firm believer that salespeople aren't born, they're made, they're developed. And anybody, I don't care if you're a massive introvert, you can be an awesome salesperson. But don't let people knock you off your pedestal, and don't let people beat you down, because you need to have that solid belief system that, hey, my product or service is very important. And so, if you go into a call and think, oh God, nobody wants to talk to me, well, you're kind of putting yourself behind the 8-ball right off the bat, right? So it's that belief set and mindset that we need to make sure is nice and strong.
Awesome answer there, Eric. That's like, it reminds me, we talk about the personalities where we're at. I'm definitely an introvert by trade, and had to force myself out of that a little bit, and move more towards the driver category, and being more assertive with potential clients and current clients has made life a lot easier, helped them understand their situation and make decisions better and faster that benefits them, versus me getting beat up by back and forth too long, or not really getting to the point because I didn't want to offend anyone or something like that. And definitely that's something I learned from Eric when I was a student of Sandler a few years ago. Eric, being in sales can be a bit of a roller coaster sometimes, and we can work very hard to obtain our goals. And sometimes, as goal setters, and myself included, I'll hit a goal and be like, great, and I'm not satisfied, and I'll set another one and jump on and carry on without sometimes taking a minute to smell the roses and celebrate some of those wins or those goals that I've had. What do you do to celebrate your wins when you've hit a goal or set a big target and have hit it within time or shortly thereafter?
Yeah, that's a great question, and I think we're cut from the same cloth, Nick, because I'll say in the past it was all about, okay, knock that one down, let's go after another one, right? Let's make it bigger, better, faster, all of that sort of thing. And listen, I think that's just kind of how some of us are wired. What I've been told is, yeah, Eric, you need to kind of slow down and enjoy the ride, right? And so I've really kind of made a cognizant effort to do a little bit of pat yourself on the back along the way as you achieve these goals and celebrate the wins. It's easier on the head, makes you feel better, and I think it makes you enjoy the ride along the way. not to say that, you know, oh, we're not as driven as we used to be. I think we're, you know, that's why goal setting is important. Regardless of how we get there, let's just get there, but let's really make sure, especially if it's a team goal, to celebrate that success and make sure that your team sees that in you and you are exuding that with them.
That's awesome. Perfect. I love that. You know, we're all in different, I guess, spots in our careers here, and different age ranges probably, you know, that equates to that. Nathan's starting out and building a business at a very rapid pace, which isn't surprising as you get to know him. I'm a few years down the road, and one thing that really helps us build our business is referrals. I recall a number of conversations that we had as students of Sandler about generating referrals and how to go about doing that. You know, how do you generate referrals, and what sets, you know, your mindset around referrals apart from that of perhaps other salespeople?
Yeah, that's a great one, and I'm a huge fan of referrals. There's a lot of business in referrals. You know, the stats by which we operate is 20% of your clients are already referring you. They're already out there kind of, you know, preaching about you, how awesome you are, which is probably why you get some inbound calls and that sort of thing. Another 20%, for whatever reason, they're not as comfy giving referrals. But it's that 60% that's left that would be happy to give you referrals if we ask them. And you know, some people, that's the part that they struggle with is referrals. You know, asking for a referral sounds too salesy, or, you know, haven't earned the right to ask for a referral. Or bottom line is, whoever's doing business with you is doing it for a reason, because you're solving a problem for them, right? They're pleased with your product or service. So if we don't make it a pitchy approach, if we just ask them and say, Nathan, hey, look, I really appreciate your business. It's very important to me. You know, how are we doing? All that kind of stuff. And then just kind of flat out say, you know what? A lot of our business is coming through referrals. If there's, I'd be curious, you know, is there anybody that comes to mind that you think might benefit from just a conversation with me? And if so, you know, feel free to email them and copy me in, and I can take it from there. That's typically how I do it. And they're happy to do so. They think they're doing you a favor, which they are. They're pleased to do you a favor because you've been helping them along the way. So again, it's having that belief system that we can sometimes take for granted, right? So you can see how it kind of connects.
I think that goes back to what we were talking about as being like a business person in sales, is that we're not just salesmen. We do have to kind of be on that same playing field as all them, and just simply asking. I mean, like you said, we're just here to help people, and there's no reason that asking somebody should be offensive by any means, and we're just looking to help others as well. So referrals should be really simple. I know a lot of people don't capitalize on it as much, but.
And I was just recalling back to, you know, some of the conversations we would have, again, not to, you know, to revert back to the Sandler training, but I recall how like nervous people were about approaching their clients for referrals. And it kind of blows. It's like, you know, get a sale, or, you know, do your best to help someone. And then just like, oh, you don't want to call them and screw the relationship up or something like that. And, you know, it was just something that, you know, as Eric said, I was trying to be a good student, and I took it to heart. And now, you know, it's frequent that I'll ask clients, or I'll send them an email, even in the sort of the more digital age, is, you know, do you mind giving us a 5-star review on Google, or, you know, any socials that we're on, just so we can be found easier and kind of create that trust. So it's been very beneficial to, I guess, have the guts and confidence to ask our clients, say, hey, you know, we're helping out. So that was a great lesson learned for sure.
Yeah, just one more thing, just to close that one off. You know, ask your client, you know, when you're having coffee with them, or if it's a phone call, you know, how are we doing? Remind me, what problem are we solving for you? Are you pleased with our service and that sort of thing? And get them thinking very positively about your product or service before we start to smooth into the referral conversation. Because if we just call them and say, hey, I need a referral, right? Not that if we do that, it might not go over as well.
A little desperate, probably.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm kind of taking a little bit of a turn here off the referral conversation that we're having, but one thing that I think is important to ask business owners right now is how are you adapting to this new, with COVID going on and everyone just being stuck at home and just having to do all these digital conversations? Like, it would be our goal ultimately to be able to do something like this in person. And me and Nick haven't even been able to see each other face to face yet. So we've been dealing with it all virtually, which is awesome. But how have you and like the Sandler crew kind of adapted to COVID and this new virtual reality, I guess, that we're living in?
Well, it's a great question. I think it was back in April of 2020, whenever this whole thing started, or shortly thereafter. And I pulled the team into the training room that we had in Bedford. I said, guys, what are we going to do? And at that point, we just said, there's nothing we can do. This is an uncontrollable. So let's just start giving stuff away. And we would host weekly webinars focused on what we thought were relevant topics at the time. And geez, we had 100, 150, 200 people on these webinars. So that's how we kind of began the process of getting people comfortable with online delivery. Shortly thereafter, in October, I made the decision to shut the training center down altogether, because we'd go in the office and I'd walk by this empty room, which was beautiful and all tricked out and all that sort of thing, and so we did that, and we haven't looked back. We've grown our business significantly because I think people are over the natural skepticism of virtual training. Everybody's using Zoom and Teams and WebEx. And so I think people are much more comfortable with it. So that's the biggest way that, Nathan, that we've adapted our business is we're now purely virtual. And because of that, I now have a network of trainers across the country that I engage to train certain topics for different groups. And so it really opens up a whole new marketplace for us.
Right. So in some ways, you're saying that it might have been even more effective now than what it used to be.
Huge. Yeah. So I don't plan on opening up a physical space anytime soon, if ever.
Okay. And is there anything that you plan on doing this year that you weren't doing last year? Anything? I know you're not going to be opening up a new space, but maybe more virtual calls or anything different to your business?
Well, so I was the first one in Canada within Sandler to actually shut down the physical space, and I think this was picked up by the US. So now what they're asking me to do is, one of my passions is to work big sales cycles, big strategic deals. So this is what I'll be doing in 2022, is focusing with the other franchise owners across the country for big sales deals. So, so yeah, that'll be quite a different spin on 2022.
Nice.
Awesome. Good luck with that. That sounds pretty cool.
Thanks.
Eric, maybe one last point on Sandler, and one that I really wanted to cover off, and I think will be super beneficial for the audience. It's something I use every day, and I believe I used it to some degree at the beginning of our call today, and it's referred to, I think, as the Upfront Contract. I would say it's probably one of the biggest takeaways that I've had from Sandler, and I'm just curious, do you mind telling the audience a bit about what that is?
Sure. Yeah, that's a popular one for sure. And again, jump on YouTube, check it out. Just type in Upfront Contract, and you'll get probably a few different perspectives and how they utilize it. But let me ask you, Nathan, what happens when you don't have a structured approach to your sales call?
Well, first off, I find that you lose control right off the bat. And I find as a salesperson or a business person in sales, one thing that's really important is to be able to direct the conversation. Because first off, obviously you want to be able to get all your points across, and rather than just a quick hang up or just respecting their time too. That's one thing in the upfront contract that I learned, is that you get their agenda, you get your agenda out, you get the time kind of figured out. So it's just a respectful way to be able to start a conversation off, so everyone knows exactly what the purpose of your call or what the purpose of your meeting is. That's what I got out of it.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. So yeah, maybe I'll do a real quick demo because there's one element that a lot of people forget, and that's the outcome. So Nathan, listen, thanks for your time. I'm doing a sales call with Nathan. So thanks for your time, Nathan. Really appreciate it. You said when we chatted last week that you had 30 minutes. That still work for you? Is that still good?
Yep.
Okay. So when we chatted last, you wanted to talk about A and B. Was there anything else that we wanted to kind of work into the agenda?
No, that's everything. That's everything that I'm looking for.
Okay, well, look, if it's all right, I've got a bunch of questions for you so that I can make sure that I fully understand what your issue or challenge is that you're trying to overcome. Is that all right?
Perfect.
And by the end of our 30 minutes here, we can mutually decide, if it's a fit, great, what a next step might look like, or if it's not a fit, that's cool as well. Nice to know you.
Let's do it.
All right. So that last piece was the outcome that I would strongly encourage you to recommend. Anyway, Nick, probably way too long in the upfront contract, but
hey, no, that's a perfect example, and
Yeah.
Again, it's been so beneficial. It really, I found it separates you from anyone else who's calling on a prospective client, especially in today's market, for sure. We're getting tight here on time, and we want to respect yours, Eric. So we have a couple of closing questions that touch on maybe not so much business, but a little bit about who Eric is. And if you don't mind, maybe we can sort of rapid fire through those if that's okay.
Sure.
First, I'm just curious, who inspires you?
Who inspires me? I would say my entrepreneur organization membership.
Okay.
And secondly would be the young, passionate entrepreneurs
Right.
that are excited about what they do.
Cool. That's awesome. If you could have dinner with 3 people, living or dead, who would they be and why?
I would say my grandfather, because he started a business.
Cool.
Didn't really get to know him too well, unfortunately. I've got a lot of time for Masai Ujiri, the head of the Raptors organization, because he
Nice.
knows how to develop talent for sure. And a guy that I saw speak not too long ago, Scott Galloway. And if you haven't seen what he does, check him out.
Awesome. We will. How do you measure success?
Well, it used to be purely financial, but now it's really just seeing that I've got the runway to develop new opportunities and personal growth. So success would be the amount of runway that I see ahead of me.
Awesome. Cool. That's amazing. If you could stand on the top of the mountain and yell one thing out that the whole world would hear, what would it be?
Get outside your comfort zone. Take a risk.
Awesome.
I know Nick kind of just touched on it with that question there, but I'm interested myself. Is there any advice other than that you'd give to a young entrepreneur just starting up, just looking to start their own company?
Yeah, we do a lot of work with these folks, and just be 1,000% clear on the problem that you solve. Don't get too wrapped up in how awesome your product or service is and that sort of thing. Make sure that you're really crystal clear on the problem that it's solving for the market. Yeah,
that makes sense. And like you said, I know we're getting close to the end of our time here, but just for fun, I know you've been doing sales for a long time. Is there any other profession that you think would be interesting to try or that you'd be good at?
Well, I'm stepping into real estate, so we got a development
Nice.
plan. So I'll probably make tons of mistakes and cost myself a lot of money. But hey, it's all about failing forward.
That's
Nice.
right. Taking that risk. Well, Eric, this has been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much. I hope that anyone listening learned a lot. I know we did, and we're truly grateful to have you on the podcast. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Really appreciate your time.
Appreciate it, Eric. Thank you.